So I started making these voice memos to share some of the things I've been thinking about, experimenting with, and actively trying. So in the first episode, I talked about James Toney and one of the patterns he used in his fight against Mike McCallum. Okay, so for today, we're going to flip it. Today, we're going to look at something Mike McCallum did. And what I want to dig into is his use of the defensive pull. Now, here's what stood out to me. Mike didn't just pull to one side, he had two types of pulls, a pull to his right side and a pull to his left. Now, both had similarities. He would shift his weight from his lead foot to his rear foot and rotate into a more bladed stance, but they did have their differences. Oh, and if you're like, Mike, do you got any visuals? And actually, I do. I break these down in two places, my YouTube Heavy Bag series and on my blog at boxingnotebook.com. And what I'll do is I'll drop some links in the show notes. Okay, so we're going to use this format: goal, hypothesis, experiment, and result. So the goal is to implement a left-sided pull counter when your opponent throws a jab at your head. Easy enough. And the hypothesis is my belief that the left-sided pull is a viable option. And to figure that out, if it's true, I created an experiment using a boxing partner drill. So before we get into our experiment though, first let's talk about the mechanics. Okay, when I say pull to the left or pull to the right, I'm referring to the direction your head travels as you shift your weight. Now let's assume we're talking about an orthodox fighter. So if my head starts over my lead foot and I pull to my right, my head can travel all the way over to my rear foot. But if I pull to the left, the furthest point my head could travel would be somewhere around my midpoint between my lead foot and my rear foot. And to hone in on that idea, that little difference matters. Pulling to your right gives you more space to pull away from that punch, whereas pulling to your left only lets your head move to that midpoint, meaning in that case, you're going to be closer to that incoming punch when you pull to your left. Now, once we complete that pull to the left, we'll need a built-in counter. So we're going to respond with either a rear straight or a lead cross. And this is a good point to touch on a couple mechanical things. While you pull to your left, you'll be doing several things all in unison. You'll be rotating your shoulders, stepping your lead foot back, turning it towards your opponent while up on your toes, and finally shifting your weight from your lead foot to your rear foot. And here's something else to consider. Since your shoulders are bladed to the left, all your tools are inverted, meaning your rear straight is in essence your jab, being that your rear hand is now the closest tool to your opponent, while your lead hand is now your rear hand, being that it's now the furthest away, which would make your lead cross your power shot. So here's the experiment to create a partner flow drill moving through that pattern. Let's make the assumption that we have two orthodox fighters, and on the first beat, boxer A will throw a jab. Then on the second beat, he'll drop. And there's a reason for that drop, and I'll explain that in more detail as to why in a little bit. But first, let's move over to boxer B. Now for boxer B, we'll start with his weight on his lead foot. He can have his shoulders square bladed in the high guard or low guard, either is fine. And on the first beat, when that jab comes from boxer A, boxer B in one motion will pull to his left side, rotate his shoulders, step that rear foot back on his toes while shifting his weight to his rear foot. Now that jab should come up short. Then on the second beat, boxer B will counter with either a rear straight or a lead cross. I would like to mention here, if he throws a rear straight, he'll find that he'll end with his head over his lead foot. Whereas if instead he chose a counter lead cross, his shoulder rotation will put him on the right side of his line, placing his head towards his rear foot. And now let's get back to boxer A and their safety in this drill. After throwing that jab on the first beat, his shoulder rotation would have put him on the right side of his line. So on that second beat, his defensive response will be to drop. And a drop I would define as a waist bend over your rear foot. And so since he threw that jab on that first beat, he is now in position to drop on that second beat, which would allow boxer A to get under either that rear straight or that lead cross. And now for the result. In short, it worked. The pull to the left plus the rear straight or lead cross created, I thought, a solid partner drill. We did extend it a bit by adding a counter to the counter after that drop, which just added to the sequence, which was pretty cool. So, yeah, I'd say the left sided pull is another way to defend against the jab. Okay, that's it for today. If you want a visual, check out the links below. All right, keep rocking.